The playoffs are here, and you can predict the action all the way to the finals with FanDuel Predicts. Predict the spread, the total points, and even the game-winning moments that make the playoffs. Sign up and get a $25 bonus with FanDuel Predicts.
Offered by FanDuel Prediction Markets, LLC, a registered futures commission merchant. 18-plus bonus is non-withdrawable and expires 7 days after receipt. Trading derivatives involves significant risk and may not be suitable for all investors. Manage your activity with their consumer protection tools. Restrictions apply. See terms at FanDuel.com/predicts/bonus-offer-terms.
The Rita Cosby Show
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
That Kuwait's air defenses are right now confronting drone and missile attacks coming in from Iran. Of course, Kuwait, a strong supporter of the U.S., and apparently Kuwaiti air defenses are working, thwarting this attack coming in from Iran. Iran, of course, as we have seen in the last few weeks and months, have been going after a lot of the Gulf states. UAE has had a lot of incoming, and now Kuwait, which again is a strong ally of the United States. There's a lot of U.S. military operations there in Kuwait. And there was also reports earlier today that President Trump was going to have Saudi, Kuwait, and Qatar, hoping to have them as part of the Abraham Accords, saying that might be part of their criteria. And Iran, of course, does not want any of them to be part of the Abraham Accords, which means an alliance and relationship with Israel. But new word coming in the last few minutes that Kuwait is thwarting some incoming drones and missiles coming in from Iran. And earlier today, President Trump said what the rules are with Iran, that they are non-negotiable. He said there are some things that are very clear. Of course, no nukes, no nuclear dust. That will all be removed by the U.S. or an oversight agency. And then he keeps going back to also the Strait of Hormuz, saying there is no negotiation. Iran's fingers cannot be on that vital waterway.
Control of the Strait of Hormuz. Would you accept a short-term deal that allows Iran and Oman to control the strait? And would they have to open it immediately, or would you be open to that happening over a period of time?
No, the strait's going to be open to everybody.
And who would control it?
It's international waters. Nobody's going to control it. We're going to watch over it. We'll watch over it, but nobody's going to control it. That's part of the negotiation that we have. They would like to control it. Nobody's going to control it. It's international waters, and Oman will behave just like everybody else, so we'll have to blow them up. They understand that. They'll be fine.
Mr. President, thank you. How much economic pressure?
I don't know if they'll be fine if they get blown up, but President Trump clearly is not messing around in any shape or form. By the way, Mayor Mamdani putting out a statement just now saying that while he's not attending the Israel Day parade, it should not be misinterpreted as some sort of sign that he's anti-Semitic. We'll read it the way we think we should read it, as you are the first mayor of New York City not attending the Israel Day parade. That's a doozy. Also, speaking of doozies, Joe Biden, let's go back to memory lane. And boy, was it a painful time with Joe Biden in the White House. Can you imagine if he was dealing with Iran right now with these massive things going on with Iran? Well, this is Joe Biden. Remember during the 2024 debate, and I wasn't surprised. I remember we covered it live when the debate was happening. And to me, when I saw him, it was like that's how Joe Biden was the day before, the month before, the year before. Joe Biden was bumbling, fumbling all over the place. And I know Joe Biden. I met Joe Biden decades earlier and covered him in Washington. I always said this to you guys, that he was sharp as a tack. He was really spirited. He was really feisty. I mean, this is a guy who definitely was a great debater and really at his prime really was a good feisty politician. Whether you agreed with him or not is a whole other matter. But he definitely was a wordsmith and definitely someone who enjoyed the verbal fight. But he was a shell of himself when he was president, and that was terrible for the United States. And we saw it for years. But now, suddenly Jill Biden is having some epiphany. And I can't wait to get your reaction to this. But it all kind of goes back to this famous debate, remember, where afterwards the Democrats went, uh-oh, maybe we need to replace Joe Biden. That the whole world sees what they probably all knew. That's my belief, because I don't believe they didn't know it. But here's the debate in 2024. Remember this moment?
I'm going to continue to move until we get the total ban. on the total initiative relative to what we can do with more Border Patrol and more asylum officers.
President Trump?
I really don't know what he said at the end of that sentence. I don't think he knows what he said either. Look.
And I don't think anybody understood what Joe Biden said, but I wasn't surprised. To me, it wasn't like, oh, this is a new Joe Biden. This was just what we had been seeing. He was avoiding the press. Remember, he never did any interviews. A far cry from what we see with President Trump today at the cabinet meeting. I never saw a cabinet meeting like that with Joe Biden, where the whole cabinet was there, president seamlessly kind of in control. The only one I remember actually was one where Jill Biden appeared. Do you remember? She kind of took the place of her husband and said, honey, you sit here and I'll direct the whole thing. She knew what the game was. My belief is she knew the whole deal. My belief, she was part of the cover-up, and it was a blatant cover-up. And even the media clearly knew about it. You hear Jake Tapper's book years later talking about, there were signs and we should have reported it then. That was disgraceful. Because the job of journalists is they should have been grilling him and his people then. Remember the reports of the doctors kind of being snuck in and all the other things for the good of the country. And now suddenly Jill Biden in the last few hours has dropped what people are kind of considering a bombshell. She's finally admitting that she thinks there was a problem with Joe Biden. But this is interesting. You have to hear this because she says she thought he was having a health crisis for the debate. But she said, because during that moment of the debate, what she's talking about, that whole debate experience, where afterwards, by the way, she came out and told the country what a great job he did. So obviously that's not true, even by her own admission. But remember, it was like, listen to this. She says essentially this is a different Joe Biden that night. There was a big health scare she thought was going on, because it was a different Joe Biden than she saw before or afterward. She had never seen it before, ever, 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 ever. Wink, wink, nod, nod. Just that night during the debate. Listen to what she just told CBS in an interview.
Were you horrified as you saw it unfold?
I wasn't horrified. I was frightened because I had never, ever seen Joe like that before or since. Never.
Or since?
Yes. Or
You've
since.
Never seen him like
never.
that?
No.
What happened?
I don't know what happened. I mean, as I watched it, I thought, oh my God, he's having a stroke. And it scared me to death.
So if she really thought he was having a stroke, maybe she should have taken him to the hospital, as opposed to going back. Remember, after the debate, she goes back and it was the weirdest thing. Remember, she was talking to him like he was a 2-year-old. Saying, good job, little Joe. Good job, little Joe. You were great. Let's go back on memory lane. This is what she said after the debate.
Joe, you did such a great job. You answered every question. You knew all the facts. And let me ask the crowd, what did Trump do? Lie! Yes.
Si se puede. Remember that? Remember when she was trying to pretend like she was speaking Spanish? Oh, my goodness. This was horrible. Oh, you were so good, little Joe. You answered the questions like a kindergartner. Thank you, little Joe. You're the greatest. And meanwhile, now she has the audacity to tell the world, oh, I thought he had a stroke that night. And again, never saw anything before, she says, or after. But during that debate, boy, she thought he had a stroke. And then she goes and tells the country, oh, what a great job he did. He's the best. He answered every little question little Joe did. First of all, what an insult all of this is. And Jill Biden, there is no way you can tell me she did not see the degradation in Joe Biden. I saw the degradation in Joe Biden. It was visible to me because he wasn't the man that he used to be. He was quippy. He was sharp. He used to be energetic. He used to be spunky. Remember when he did the debate for vice president? He aced that. He did a great job. He really did. He was sharp as a tack. But yet, this Joe Biden that we saw in office was horrible, was out of it. You now hear reports that he wasn't even available for meetings. He barely ever spent time talking to his press secretary. I mean, all of these crazy claims. How could they have let the country go in the hands of this man? And Jill Biden trying to have it all ways now that, during the debate, I thought things were terrible because that's the moment the whole world saw. But all these other things that we covered up, that's not true. He was sharp as a tack. He was William Shakespeare, except during that time during the debate. Then he was like Bozo the Clown. Nobody buys it. Nobody buys it. Tú no puedes. No way. That doesn't work, baby. 1-800-848-9222. 1-800-848-9222. Let's go to Dom in Minnesota on line 5. Dom, wow. Where do you want to take it from? There's a lot of news tonight.
Well, Rita, I wasn't going to call, but then Mr. Kyle forced me to. People are getting, the university degree these days is not worth the paper it's written on. People are getting degrees in dumber. They're not taught to think. They lack the energy or will to become informed and think critically. Joe Biden, you mentioned Joe Biden, so I just wanted to talk about him a little bit because Joe Biden probably lost all his marbles ever since Jill started feeding him sandwiches from New York City, Bogota, not a bodega.
That's right. She confused the language and she went to a Bogota instead.
and that's the problem. I guess, these people from the university, there are people that are protesting and in front of people, and you ask them, your reporter puts a microphone in their face and says, what are you protesting? No, I don't know. So I guess the expensive Kool-Aid they're being fed in these universities must taste real good.
Yeah, and you know what's so scary?
We do have a clan in this country, and it's called the Democratic Socialists of America. That's the clan we're following.
Yeah, and their leaders some of them are like teachers in universities, and it's really scary, Dom. I think about, you and I have talked for a long time, Dom, on the air here, and I think about, years ago, if somebody said, okay, we have this guy who says there's 6 sexes, James Talafrico, as they're calling him now in Texas, right? And then you've got Graham Plattner with the Nazi tattoo, who's mocking veterans. You would have said, no, there's no way that person would ever be a candidate for any office in America with a straight face. Have they really totally lost their minds that they would put up individuals like this? Are they so desperate? And I guess I'm going to answer my own question. Yes, because they're outside the ICE facility protesting, saying, let those please nice murderers and rapists out because we want to make sure the food is cooked at a bodega versus a bobada.
I think, I really can't believe Bernie Sanders endorsed this guy. That's when I thought, okay, this guy, Bernie Sanders, is the grand poobah of the Democratic Socialist America. He's the Ku Klux Klan guy. So, he's got a tattoo and he still endorses him. I can't believe he did that. They must be really desperate.
Yeah, they must be so desperate that they're willing to settle for the bottom of the barrel and just despicable human beings. I don't know if you heard this, Dom. I thought this was such a powerful statement, so I want to repeat it again. Professor Alan Dershowitz said to us yesterday, and he gave a really just shocking, but it's a powerful line. He said, if Elizabeth Warren, who is endorsing this crazy Graham Plattner, if it was in the 1930s, Elizabeth Warren and found out that Hitler was okay and wanted to boost the minimum wage and support like the DSA platform, she would endorse Adolf Hitler. That's Dershowitz's opinion. And I hate to say it, I think Dershowitz is right. You got a guy with a concentration camp, the worst of the worst, as we were talking last night, ethnic cleansing tattoo, who's mocking veterans, telling women who've been raped, buck up. And he's actually a candidate on any party, not the loony party, the Democratic Party. But I guess it's one and the same, right, Dom?
Yeah, and I think it's the sad part is, Rita, what I've been observing at least last 15 years, power and more power and absolute power is the only thing that matters to Democrats. Everything else be damned. The citizens be damned. If they're going to, kowtow behind illegal aliens, as street citizens, as second-class citizens, that's sad. So universities we've got to change the university education system. My dad, when I complained about my teacher hitting me on the knuckle for doing something bad, he said, I ought to hit you on the head with a baseball bat. That's how we were when we were kids. things have changed quite a bit. That's the problem. University education is rotten these days.
Yeah, you are absolutely right. I mean, I grew up in the same kind of household, Dom, where it was like, don't you ever disrespect a cop. You don't ever disrespect a teacher. You don't ever disrespect your mother or your father. It was like, duck, I'm running. I mean, it was like, it even dawned on me to say some of these things or do some of these things. And yet I agree, this indoctrination process that we're in, that is so dangerous because it's a cycle right now that these kids are growing up in, and then they're listening to these teachers who are out there protesting with them, and then they're making money from what I believe are outside sources too. I mean, it's this big cycle that we got to figure out how to break it, not just for them, but for America. 1-800-848-9222, 1-800-848-9222. And you are listening to The Rita Cosby Show.
The Rita Cosby Show, entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
The Rita Cosby Show, entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
A little off their kilter. Wait till you hear some of the comments coming from L.A., from the mayor's race and also from the governor's race. They're not just doubling down, they're tripling down. And we'll talk about that and so much more tonight. Boy, there is a lot of news. Let's go actually to line one. Let's go to Patrick in Indiana. Patrick, go ahead.
Yes, I want you to give me as much time as Robert's got. And Joaquin from
Are you having Robert's jealousy, Patrick? Are you having Robert's jealousy?
No, I'm wanting time to talk to you. You usually don't let me say anything. You talk back, and then you cut me off, and I don't get to say what I wanted to say.
All right, so here's what. Hey, Robert, hold on. Hold your horses, okay? And I like emotional people, all right? So here's what we're going to do. Just for your sake, because you are always so nice, and you talked about the two Roberts who we love, we're going to go to a break, okay? You're going to stick with me, because we're going to have more time. We got a hard break coming up in about 20 seconds, and it's going to cut you off. But I want you to stay on the line, and I will give you at least Robert's time. So it'll be triple Roberts tonight with Patrick coming in there, the home run hitter, all right?
The Rita Cosby Show, entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
The Rita Cosby Show, entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
First, here is Javier Becerra, and he is running in the governor's race there in California. And if you thought it was bad, these people that were protesting outside of the Newark ICE detention facility, blocking the entrances to and fro, I mean, that is not good. They're trying to bring in dangerous detainees, and they can't bring them in. Well, that's just the tip of the iceberg. Javier Becerra, again, who is leading on the Democratic side in the governor's race. It looks like it's sort of between him and Steve Hilton on the Republican side in the latest polls. We'll see where it goes. But, of course, the big jungle primary is coming up pretty soon. But here's Javier Becerra, and listen to what he says about health care for undocumented immigrants. Forget the food in the detention center. He wants to give them health care.
We also make sure that we don't go anywhere near where Donald Trump would like us to go when it comes to health care. We don't start kicking people off of their health care simply because Donald Trump gutted $1 trillion out of the health care system.
Well, some of that is a question of what to do in terms of health care for the undocumented. That's been something that Steve Hilton has pointed out. He says he wants to take the undocumented off of health care rolls. Why do you want to keep them on there, and how much is that going to cost the state?
Clearly a place where we differ. He looks at them as people who don't have documents. I look at them as hard workers. I look at them as people like my parents. I am the son of immigrants. To me, I want you to help me build California. If you're working hard, I want you to have health care. I guess Steve Hilton doesn't care if they work really hard. He looks at their status, and that's about it.
Well, he says that they broke the law. He says that he immigrated here legally, and that spending money to give somebody health care is incentivizing bad behavior.
He doesn't seem to mind that the price of food is a little lower because these are the folks who are picking the crops. He doesn't seem to mind that the places that you can buy to live in are places that these folks built. He doesn't seem to mind that they're the folks that are taking care of probably one of his relatives, probably taking care of his yards. He seems to mind that they don't have documents, but he doesn't seem to mind that they do so much of the work in California.
What's the price tag for health care for illegal or for people that are here without documents? What's the price tag for that?
It's no different than it is for you or me. It's just that because they're undocumented, they don't get any assistance from the federal government. And we ultimately will make sure that we provide health care to everyone who works, doing it the right way, and we'll make sure that we don't leave anybody out, because when you leave them out, they still will get health care, except they'll enter through the most expensive doors in the healthcare system, the emergency room.
But do you have a cost estimate for what that means for
there are cost estimates. The Governor Newsom has done the right thing. He's moved the state closer to being able to provide health care to everyone who works in this state. That includes the undocumented. And we've seen the numbers. It is expensive, but it's more expensive to let people go without care.
That's an incredible statement. That is incentivizing people for illegal behavior. And then get this, when Karen Bass was asked about, well, should we do health care for illegals? She's, of course, the mayor of Los Angeles. That's another big hot race there, her and Spencer Pratt. And that looks like that's going to be a fascinating race, the primary, and that coming up pretty soon. Here is Karen Bass, and suddenly she went to teeth like a dentist.
How many people who are unhoused that you meet have no teeth at all? They don't have teeth. Why? Because meth rots your teeth. You can't succeed without teeth. So there needs to be comprehensive health care provided to people.
Free cosmetic dentistry for homeless meth heads? And you can't give the money directly to the dentist. No. Karen's funneling the money through a nonprofit, obviously. It's called Homeless Not Toothless.
Well, that was a little commentary by Jesse Waters, my buddy Jesse Waters there on Fox News. In the meantime, Spencer Pratt, who is running against Karen Bass, he is running as an independent. And if you look at like his history, he came out the other day, and this is a great line. He was talking about what he would do with homeless in Los Angeles, a lot of them undocumented. And he said, listen, if I become mayor, they're going to be moving to Seattle because that's where they know they can get the freebies. Take a listen to this.
These 40,000 people, 60% of them, City Watch just announced this week, are not from Los Angeles. They're not from California. These people have been bussed in by scam rehabs, scam NGOs, scam homeless nonprofits. These people, when I unplug them and say, we're not taking our tax money anymore, they're all going to Seattle, where the mayor will welcome them.
And the mayor there will say, come one, come all. That mayor is like a mini Mondani. And in fact, when it came out that she was driving businesses away, businesses like Starbucks in Seattle, some biggies, she was asked, hey, what are you going to do? What's your message to these CEOs that are leaving in droves from Seattle? She said, bye. That was her message. See ya. Don't let the door kick you on the way out. 1-800-848-9222, 1-800-848-9222. Now let's go back to Patrick, who's been patiently waiting. Patrick, go ahead. Thank you.
The first thing I want to do is agree with Joaquin from Pennsylvania. He said if he was in charge, the sanctuary cities and sanctuary states would be overthrown. Well, that's in the Constitution, and you should tell President Trump to enforce the Constitution. Right now he's doing everything on the foreign affairs, but he's neglecting the
domestic
affairs. First of all, Article 6, Article 6, Section 2, I'll quote that for you. It says, this Constitution and laws passed in pursuance thereof, and treaties made or that shall be made, are the law of the land. and anything in any other state constitution to the contrary notwithstanding, and all state judges are bound by this Constitution. Now, that's what it says, but...
so what do you think should happen, Patrick? Just because I hear what you're saying, what do you think needs to happen to these folks who are defying, as you aptly describe, federal law?
No, I'm not, and neither was Joaquin, but he didn't have the Constitution to back it up. But what President Trump should do, and you should tell him this, he should, first of all, take the...
Patrick, you got to get to the point.
Federal troops, National Guard from other states, and overthrow these sanctuary states and sanctuary cities, because they're not supposed to be making laws contrary to the Constitution, and that's what they're doing.
Wait. Hold on a second, Patrick, because now you're saying, what, federal troops? Or are you saying send in the stormtroopers into these cities? That's not going to work very well. I mean, I hear your message that there needs to be some enforcement, but you can't really be saying send in the federal troops to these cities to occupy U.S. cities because they have the sanctuary law. I don't like the sanctuary law, but that's not a realistic solution. Come on.
Let me talk. He should do it. President Trump should do the same thing as President Lincoln did. He took all the other states from the north to defeat the South, and the sanctuary cities are nothing but the South. They're, the sanctuary cities are making laws against the Constitution.
All right, so I hear you, Patrick. Hold on. I've let you speak. Even as rude as you've been, I still have let you speak, okay? So now you got to let me speak. I've let you have your say. So you're actually suggesting that it should be almost like the Revolutionary War. And that's a little strong. I mean, you gotta, come on. And you're expecting nobody to say, yeah, sure, let's send in the troops to sanctuary cities. That's a little extreme. I do hear you that these cities should not be defying law. There's no question about it. I agree with you 100% on that. But to say you got to send in these troops, that ain't going to happen. But I always love hearing from you, Patrick. And you got to call back in again soon. It's always good to hear from you. Let's go to Sal. Sal, you heard Patrick is ready to say charge. Go ahead.
Well, Rita, desperate times call for desperate measures. We have to stop legal immigration as well as illegal, because bear in mind, those people that flew those planes into the World Trade Center, they were legally here, and we have to make sure we make sure these legal immigrants are good people that want to come into this country.
Yeah, they need to be vetted. Yeah, Sal, you bring up a very good point, because not only were they here, like you said, I think Mohammed Atta had been here for years, settled in. The other one was taking flight school, remember, in Oklahoma. I think about also Boston, the Boston Marathon bombing, they overstayed their visas. There are a lot of them that come in on these, quote, visas, and then they overstay, and then they plot and plan. And we haven't even been able to get rid of, who is it, Mahmoud Khalil, I think, is still here. That's the guy who was running all those pro-Hamas, anti-Israel protests all over the country, sort of inspiring the ones, remember, starting out of Columbia University. That's still going through the legal process. I mean, Sal, I love America's great legal process. We have the best in the world. There's no doubt about it. And I think everybody deserves fair justice. But if you can't get rid of sort of the leader of these protests, how are you going to get rid of junior leaders, right, Sal?
Absolutely. We need to use the legal process for the benefit and the safety of the American people, and we can't go out of our way and say, "Oh, we got to help these people. We have to be compassionate and caring with all these illegals and these illegals that are coming here that are abusing the system." No, we have to crack down on them before it's too late.
Yeah, I agree. And the problem is there are already so many people. My big fear, too, Sal, is depending who comes back into the White House. I mean, that's the other thing. You don't know who's going to come back in to the White House. And then they may be like a Joe Biden or an Obama, but especially like a Biden, come one, come all again. I mean, if you have that, even if you get rid of some in the meantime, that's going to be disastrous for America. And I really do. I expect if any Democrat almost comes in to the White House, they're going to, on day one, do an executive order like Joe Biden did and reverse everything. Remember, it was like within a couple hours. He reversed Keystone. He reversed border. He reversed all this stuff. And it was disastrous for America. But it can happen almost within minutes. And that's why every election counts, guys. And the midterms count incredibly. No doubt about it. Thanks so much, Sal. Let's go to Alexis in Ohio on line 4. Go ahead, Alexis.
Hi. So I just want to kind of go back to the ICE detention centers a little bit.
Sure.
So I understand what you're talking about. Like, I do think that people should make every effort to do the right thing, come here legally. And I know you mentioned you listed some names and people and their crimes and why they should be there. And you're right, they probably should be there. But there's people there that are, separated children. And, I don't really care. I mean, personally, I don't think that some 4-year-old being locked up in a detention center does anything good for them or anyone else.
But by the way, I agree with you on the kids. That is always heartbreaking. And where I have a problem, Alexis, is that a lot of the Democrats, this was happening under Joe Biden. Also, the few that he stopped and Obama especially. My goodness, remember, it was the kids in cages because he was putting them in sort of separate, literally cages. And you barely ever heard about that from the Democrats. They weren't protesting then, and now suddenly they're protesting now. But they're protesting, I see them, some of them on camera saying, oh, yeah, I know that person did this, or they're accused of that. But they're still people, too. They're not talking about the kids. They're talking about the others. But it's the hypocrisy. And did you know, under Joe Biden, there were hundreds of thousands of kids that went missing under Joe Biden coming into this country. Remember, we had anywhere from 10 to 20 million people came in illegally. And there were literally hundreds of thousands. It was, I think, 450,000 kids were missing. And I know that that's been a big thing of Tom Homan and this administration to locate those kids. And you can imagine the horrific circumstances of what's happened to a lot of those kids. And I agree with you. I don't want to see any child in a detention center or anywhere else. They should be obviously loved and taken care of. And they're just, horrific victims of in many cases, their parents' bad behavior or of the system, whatever it is. But I never really you never saw the Democrats complaining about that, Alexis. And that's where it bothers me. It needs to be a uniform complaint. And if kids being taken advantage of is bad, if they believe in the Republican case, it should absolutely be it in the Democratic case, especially when 450,000 go missing. Don't you agree?
No, I do absolutely agree with that. Now, I want to know what you think about, what do you think should be done about that? Because the way I see it, I do find myself more on the left, but I see the whole thing as just a political circle where they're all pointing at each other and telling you that, oh, that's the bad guy. Well, that's the bad guy. But they're all eating from the same plate.
Well, you bring up a good point. It is sort of a revolving door with a lot. But I will say, when you see that a number of these individuals have committed heinous crimes, to me, there's no gray with that. I think those individuals obviously should stay behind bars and be deported, never to be coming back in this country again. And the sad thing is, Democrats are seeming to say every single one of them, even if you list some of these people that are in this detention center, they don't seem to be fazed by it. And that's a problem because public safety should be priority number one, 100%. And, I'm all for people getting a fair hearing and making sure. And I'd like the people, by the way, I think the people that are here that came into the country, maybe they go out and come back in and get an expedited hearing so they can be vetted. We are a country of immigrants, but we want people who love this country and care about this country. That's the bottom line. I'm a first-generation American, so I get it. Alexis, thank you. You got to call back again. Really thoughtful, very interesting. 1-800-848-9222. But first, everybody, support our heroes.
The Rita Cosby Show presents Support Our Heroes.
And this is the Tunnel to Towers Foundation Support Our Heroes segment with a very powerful story from Georgia, where a local World War II veteran was honored by Cobb County leaders ahead of his 107th birthday. That's right, 107. World War II veteran Charlie Duncan received a special county proclamation naming May 27th, 2026, that is today, as Charlie Duncan Day in Cobb County. He is recognized as the oldest living World War II veteran in the state of Georgia. Now, by the way, he was sworn into the Army on his 25th birthday. He served his country as a member of the 578th Engineers and was also in Germany during the war. And of course, we honor him and all the members of the greatest generation. And happy birthday to Charlie Duncan, 107 years old. That's awesome. And everybody, support America's military and great first responder heroes. All you have to do to make an enormous difference is donate just $11 a month to the absolutely incredible Tunnel to Towers Foundation. They are the best, led by the great Frank Siller. Be sure to check them out and give back any way you can. They are the best. Check them out at t2t.org. That's T, the number 2, T.org.
The Rita Cosby Show, entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
The Rita Cosby Show, entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Around the Israel Day Parade. Let's see what he has to say about the fact he's not going. I think he's the first mayor since 1964. I was just seeing somehow he's not available to go to the Israel Day Parade. So let's see what he has to say is the reason of he's going to be MIA. Let's go to Tony in Clifton, line 3. Go ahead, Tony.
Hi, Rita Cosby. Listen, people always have to remember about the illegals that came into our country were all terror watch lists. And yes, they either had children or brought them into our country. So really, what our government is trying to do is just to keep everyone safe. And that always gets minimized.
No, that's a great, you know what? That's a great point. I mean, they're just trying to protect us and they're getting trash for it, right, Tony?
So let's send them all back to D.C., which is what we were hearing about from our border czar. They have to go back to D.C. That's where they need to be kept.
Or, maybe we send them to Martha's Vineyard.
The Rita Cosby Show.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.